Right, so good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our first official podcast meeting. It's called Career Talk. So we actually have our first guest here. His name is Ripudaman Singh. So he's an RN for in the public health sector. So hello, Ripudaman. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Mir. Thank you very much. Very glad to be here with you guys today.
Thank you. And then we also have my colleague on the call as well. His name is Inder Mir. So hi, Inder. How are things with you?
Good, just drinking water. I'm doing good, just hanging out with friends, and yeah, I'm excited to ask some questions. And yeah, let's see how it goes.
All right, that's great. So Ripudaman, so just a quick, I guess, an overview of the podcast. I'm just gonna dive in for a couple of minutes. So as you know, so the podcast is called Career Talk. So our main goal and mission here is just to allow our listeners to connect with you in terms of your career journey as an RN. And you know, in this podcast, we're just going to be focusing on asking you questions on, I guess, where you started in your journey in terms of your career as an RN, and you know, just to quickly, I guess, narrow down in terms of your experiences, and then we're just going to give you some time to, I guess, answer those questions and have a more reflective, I guess, questions as well. So if it's okay with you, I guess I can hand it over to Inder, and then he can start.
Okay.
So Ripudaman Singh, quick question, an important question. So how did you start towards this particular career of being an RN? What led you there? Is it a certain level of education? Is it a family background? What's the history behind it? Just curious and would like to know about it.
That's good. Cool. So becoming an RN registered nurse, wasn't my first set of choices in the beginning of high school, like right after graduating. So, my intent was basically do a bachelor's of science, apply to med school and get in and, continue on with that career for sure. It didn't plan out that way. I completed my bachelor's of public health at Waterloo University. And then through that, I actually had co-op experiences. So it was like a blend of research plus this one specific co-op placement that kind of, had that, light bulb emoticon, basically light bulb right in front of my, above my head, where I had clients with developmental disabilities one-on-one. And I didn't know that that's what I wanted to do until I actually did that. And then I had another 8-month co-op with the research. So like, again, I was trying to balance out, hey, do I go this way or do I go this way? And when I was there in research, I decided, you know what I did a couple months back, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life, just provide that service. And that's what made me choose nursing at that moment, just to apply and then see where life takes me after.
Interesting. That's a very interesting answer. So in terms of your co-op experiences, let's go into the nitty-gritties of like what happened, if you can share that. Like, what were those moments when you actually had that clarity? Because that clarity could be really useful for a lot of people. Like, when you have that clarity, that's where it leads you to newer paths and identify yourself as what direction you're going to take.
Of course. So with research, I liked it to the point that I was contributing to the world with something greater. Just to provide basically resources for the community, just to have a better, healthy lifestyle. So that's what I was working on with research with a couple of the organizations. And that involved basically, sitting down and researching journal articles after journal articles, just to provide basically information to build upon for whatever the research was working towards. I was working with this organization in Hamilton, which basically worked with so it was like involving real life situations where how we have physiotherapists helping patients regain mobility. It was basically like a machine doing that. So it was just like writing operations for that, finding more articles, which did that research prior to. So it was like very a repetitive sort of situation. And I was a research assistant at that point. And then compare this to basically having a live interaction with an individual who didn't have the same capacity that I did as a human being, just to come down to their level, or not coming down, just basically meeting them eye to eye for what they go through on a daily basis, kind of gave me more of like an insight into what I wanted to do. And I guess I hope that kind of clarifies that question that you guys asked right now.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's a pretty solid answer. Yeah, go ahead, Mir.
Sorry, I just had a quick question, I guess, based on that co-op experience. I guess, was there a moment or an experience within that co-op placement that, I guess, triggered your mind or your brain where, you decided that, research was not for me, but I think the next step would be for me to go into nursing? Like, was there like, I guess you have already answered that, but what I'm trying to say is, was there like a particular moment?
Are you talking about the tipping point?
Yeah, like, was there like a tipping point, or like, I don't know, like a specific moment, maybe with a patient, or maybe with like your coworker, where you're like, you know what, research is not for me as an individual, but nursing is.
Right. I would say again, like just the repetitive moments and just my sitting down all day with my, my posture all the way like this. Even though like I had the option of getting, a sit and stand table at home, it just didn't feel like the right fit. I feel like I was meant to be a person, facing real life situations. I wouldn't say research is not that. Like definitely there is some sort of clarity, but for me personally, I would say that I just needed to talk to live people just to have some sort of value to my everyday living, pretty much. And if I was to do that for my job, I would really love it. So I think that's why I kind of transferred to this path.
So I guess a question that might come from that for me would be that was there any interlinking from your experience, as in like, doing research and stuff like that? Like, did that in any way manifested in any form of like skills, or, it just helped you in as an RN somehow? Is any of that relevant?
So there was a little bit of, so how I'm talking about like a meeting having interactions with patients on a daily basis. So my public health degree kind of gave me that mindset of having like a overall sort of health perspective on how to prevent disease from happening. And then nursing, I initially started as like, an acute care nurse, basically. I have now transitioned into a public health role, if you're aware of that. So I think just now I'm able to interlink my undergraduate degree and my, again, undergraduate nursing degree together, just to have that perfect link. And that's what my goal was initially, right? Just to kind of bind them together. So my public health degree was also worthwhile doing in that sense.
Amazing. That's the same analogy of connecting the dots, but they connect later.
Exactly.
Right. So, well, I guess a random question that I would like to ask is, where do you see yourself in like next 5 years, or like, what do you see yourself doing? Are you going to continue in the same role? Do you want to go up the ladder, or do you want to make a lateral move? What's in store for you, or what do you expect to happen?
I think right now the situation is very, I would say, the air. That would be the term, because of, again, right now I'm responding to like the COVID response. Basically, I'm in that sort of unit for public health, and down the line I would like to remain in public health, but I'm not sure what the reality of that is, because again, our employer hasn't clarified that with us. So like, I'm just going to go off by thinking that that's, let's say public health won't be my future. I do have a couple of lists in my mind that are, ongoing. So there's also the nurse practitioner masters that you can do. So what I'm thinking of is, again, as you said, 5 years. It takes 2 years to do that. So Depending on how my personal life situation is, and if I'm able to do that, I would prefer that, and then go into like a primary healthcare sort of department, or like have my join a clinic or something like that. If not, if I still am successful to be in public health, I'd probably go up the ladder, become a manager and actually help manage and make sure that the nurses are actually contributing and providing value to the daily lives of the city of Toronto for now, but we'll see where I go from here.
Interesting. I have one quick question in there, if that's okay. So in regards, you currently mentioned that you're working in the public health sector and helping out with COVID, with the outbreak that started in the past 6 to 8 months. So I was just wondering, I guess based on your not only co-op placements in regards to research or your degree, or maybe your nursing placements, I was just wondering, did you pick up any skills from those placements that allowed you to be more prepared to not only joining the public health sector, but also to be more prepared for the COVID outbreak?
I would say so, because ever since February all the way to September, I was actually working on COVID floors myself. So
Okay.
then now to come to actually a public health position where I was able to know that, in this kind of field, this sort of stuff happens, or like, how outbreaks happen in the first place. It was kind of good to kind of have that background knowledge, so that I can apply whatever I was given at my workplace now, and then what I have from before, and putting it forward just to make sure that the spread wasn't happening, or was kind of prevented from happening when I call, because I'm part of a team that helps control outbreaks or any sort of exposures that happen
Oh, that's
at
great.
the workplace. So then, like, this workplace is not the hospital, technically speaking. It's more so like, manufacturing companies, or it could be clinics, it could be dental clinics, it could be offices, Tim Hortons, like any sort of workplace environments.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it's
that's
basically
great.
trying to control that it doesn't expand, like whatever, irrespective of which
Exactly.
locations those are.
That's it.
Okay.
Construction companies, construction sites, things like that.
Yeah, that's great. And the reason why I asked you that specific question about COVID, because I guess your degree in public health, right? It talks about outbreaks, disease prevention, disease control. So I'm sure your education in public health probably, I guess, made you more aware of, disease outbreaks or pandemics in general. So I'm sure all that knowledge that you gained in your bachelor's degree or 4 to 5 years ago, it certainly may have helped you out currently and even going forward, right? If there's any new pandemics that that could possibly happen. Not
Knock
that
on
if
wood,
it
man.
doesn't
Knock on
happen.
wood.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but that's great. Yeah.
We're just looking forward to a new pandemic.
No, I'm not.
No.
No.
Yeah. Like back then, we used to learn about SARS and everything, and we're like, oh my God.
Mhm.
And now kids are going to learn about COVID. It's an entirely different, it's like a worldwide sort of thing that's never happened before. So again, like, it's really good to have that base knowledge
Yeah.
now that I am in this field, for sure.
Yeah. Sorry, I just have one other question. That's okay. So I guess based on your education in public health, so I know that you eventually wanted to, I guess, from research and then you dived into nursing. Well, when you were studying public health or when you were about to complete it, did you ever had in your mind that you would be using this knowledge in the future at all? Or was it just, I'm only going to be using this in research? Like, did you have it in mind that you were going to be using this knowledge in this outbreak?
Like, I didn't have an idea that I would be using it like a live example of like something happening in real life, for sure.
Yeah.
But in a research setting sort of scenario, as well as like even on, because you can still take public health measures even in a hospital. So like, just to have that sort of mindset of, why to let something happen when you can sort of prevent it, or when you can provide advice, or, just consult with physicians or the actual team to make sure that the client doesn't come back to the hospital, right? So that sort of preventive approaches, that mindset was really good to have from my previous degree.
Okay.
That's great.
I would like to ask another question. So this just came to me right now. Is so what you do right now with public health, or if you just want to define public health's work to someone who's in high school, not really connected to healthcare, how would you put it in the simplest or the easiest form so that they can decide if they would at all be interested in such a path?
Right. So usually, again, this is a very different sort of framework that we're using currently. But let's say if it was, normal life, there was no COVID, we still have infectious diseases, right? We have TB, we have STIs happening, right? So it's a little bit of contact tracing. That's what I would define it as. So basically, we're following up on individuals. It's, again, a very sensitive topic, right? Like this sort of field, so public health is very broad again. There's like healthy babies that they have that they basically, nurses go out and support young mothers with their babies and basically their growth and development. There's a healthy population. So basically you're following up with elderly population to make sure they're, taking care of their health. So you basically go out and you teach, and then you follow, like the one that I am kind of in is would be infectious diseases if it wasn't COVID. So we're basically tracking individuals saying, okay, hey, how did this individual get it and who did he get it from? And then making sure that he's not spreading it, or like this person A is not spreading it around this sort of neighborhood or this sort of population, just to, basically cut that infectious rate down, just to control it in a sense. Yeah.
Yep, great answer. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, especially right now, I'm pretty sure anyone, even in high school, can understand because that's what all of us are going through.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I have a quick question, I guess, since we're all, I guess, from the cultural background of Indians. So in regards to your career, because I know that, maybe, I mean, for our listeners, we may have listeners from different cultural backgrounds, different ethnicities and whatnot. So in terms of pursuing a career as an RN, did you had any influence from your family members in terms of, whether this is the right career to go to, or whether or you should be pursuing or whether you should be taking a different route for a different career? So did you have that influence in regards to pursuing this career at all?
I would say that my parents were pretty supportive. My grandma was a nurse back home herself. And when I told her the news, she was like really happy about it. So that's always like, because again, in our brown culture, we have like, males nurses.
Yeah.
But when I actually started looking into it, there was nothing. There was no actual stigma in the workplace itself, because, there's going to be heavy patients and not everybody can lift them. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. There's a different persona that every single individual brings, whether you're male or female. Again, so this every single field. Like I know there's not a huge proportion. Like right now, I think last time I was in school, we were told it's like 94% female, 6% male. But then the benefits are also there in the sense that since the males are 6%, there's not much competition within the males to kind of achieve higher positions. Yeah. So again, that's sort of a benefit in that sense, that you're a minority in that kind of a workplace environment. So that kind of plays to your benefit. But like this, I do want to address the stigma that is behind a little bit of male nursing. But I feel like in 2020, a lot of things are being dismantled in the sense of these gender roles that we have, right? You can have CEO of a company be a female. You can have president become a female, no problem, right? Sure. Similarly, being in nursing, I have never felt, or even going into nursing, being supported by professors, being supported by my family, of course, and friends, because they know it's a very what's the word? I don't know the English word for it. It takes a certain person to do this kind of job, I would say. So, and I'm glad that I met that kind of definition, because it has paid off for sure in whatever experiences I've gained and whatever experiences are to come in the future.
That's great.
I would like to ask something. Well, I guess I'm curious to know. Now, this can be related to your career, but it can also be in general just related to your life. What are some extracurricular activities that you have been pursuing, you had pursued in the past, in high school, before that, afterwards in the university, that has either helped you in your career or just kept you sane? So either ways.
Of course. When I was in university, high school, okay, let me start at high school. High school was a long time ago. I graduated in 2011. So things are probably, again, the same because like I volunteered at a hospital for like 4 years, like grade 10 all the way to second year university, I think. And again, that helped me bring a little bit of perspective of what happens in a hospital, right? Because my main goal was to become a physician. But again, to this day, I do not regret becoming a nurse because this is what I wanted to do. And I'm glad that that met my expectations of what my career was going to be like. So again, like I was part of like leadership school. I was part of council, so kind of like getting that exposure to managing things. So that was always kind of nice. In university, I didn't participate in a lot of clubs, I would say in general. But what I did was after gaining the like the position at so it was an organization that again helped individuals with adult mental disabilities. So then when I started nursing, when I was doing my placements and stuff, I was actually also working at that location for 2 years, just to kind of keep that relationship intact and also keep getting that exposure, just to keep myself active on a one-to-one, and so that would kind of help me back into my career, and for myself because it felt like family back there because it was the same clients, so it kind of solidified my image in my head of what I wanted to become after I graduated nursing.
Perfect. Thank you for answering that.
That's great. So the other question I had for you is, I guess, based on, well, you can focus on your journey in nursing, but you can also focus on your journey, I guess, through our research. So what barriers did you face while trying to become an RN, or throughout any of your work or placement experiences? And what did you do to overcome those barriers?
Barriers. So one of the only the main barriers was when I was in my mother and baby placement. So when you had to do examinations on young female mothers and their babies, that was always a little bit awkward for a male nurse to do because usually it's a female nurse in the department. So how I got through that was basically addressing it to my clinical instructor and working with my female colleagues just to make sure I understood that department. But other obstacles, barriers would have been just managing everything all at once. But I think that applies to everybody in university. Doing both degrees, like Bachelor's of Science and Bachelor's of Nursing, I would say that the nursing degree was a little bit harder in the sense that I had to, be at a physical location to do a physical physically a job while applying what I had learned. It was very different from like a class setting where you basically you do your research, you do your papers, and you're good to go. Basically. So I would definitely consider it a little bit more tougher, but it did make me a better individual, I would say, at the end of the day. But again, I wouldn't say anything bad for my public health degree either because I had the co-op placements. So it was basically working for 4 months full time, and then you go back to school 4 months, and then back and forth. But it did give me that exposure. So which, if you just do a BC from BC, you won't get that. You actually seek it. Like in summertime, some students, they talk to your professors and they actually get these research opportunities. But not everybody gets it. At Waterloo, I was able to get that because this program supported it. It took me a little bit longer to complete the program, but at the end of the day, I did get that experience to make me decide what I really wanted to do, to make sure I chose the right path. So, right, it took me a little bit longer, but hey, I'm here where I want to be.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome. Is there anything else you would like to ask, Mir, or should I go?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. Well, what do you think about mentorship? Did you look for it? Did you need it? Did you not need it? How did it go, like, in that regards?
Like me seeking a mentor or me mentoring somebody? What's exactly?
Well, I'm talking about your experience in case you were seeking a mentor, and if you had a mentor like that was guiding you through. Like, I'm just sort of like asking your opinion on it. So yeah, whatever you want to share.
A mix of bags, I would say, because again, everybody. So we had clinical instructors for our placements. Well, you mean mentor as like just general, right?
It could be either. Depends
Yeah.
what you choose to label.
Like personally speaking, I didn't have any friends in the field like before nursing. Like we were all like public health or honor science or things like that, or like physiotherapy. So it was very different. I had some friends who went to med school, but again, very different than nursing. So when I was in nursing during my final placement, I was with one of my instructors. Like he would basically, I would shadow him for his shifts. And I feel like I just learned a lot from that male nurse. Again, I was assigned a male nurse. Luckily, it was kind of nice because again, you could still work with a female nurse and still learn a lot. I did throughout my career. But as like a student, I feel like he was my great mentor who kind of taught me from A to Z patiently, and that's how I transferred information when I became a nurse myself, because we had students on the floor. So again, I would be very patient, and because I was in that same position, because over time what happens is individuals tend to stick to their own regimen and don't want to kind of explore the idea of teaching somebody, or it's just like, oh, it's going to take my time. But I do not become like that, because again, I've been a nurse for like 20 months or so not the longest time, but want to keep my mind open to teaching and to be taught. You learn something new every single day, and you just got to, I think, remain open to learning and not develop an ego where you would think that you know everything, because you don't. That's the reality of human life. And yeah, so I feel like that's something.
So do some people touch base with you these days and ask you for any form of guidance around you in your family, in your community or region? Do you get that request?
A little bit. So my cousins, my young cousin has come to like they've recently immigrated to Canada, and I had a long chat with her like 2-3 weeks ago. So when when Mir and you guys, Inder, you emailed me regarding this and how my friend Tanvir kind of told me about this. It was interesting. I was like, oh, I don't mind, because again, I would have liked for someone to kind of tell me, hey, nursing is okay for dudes too, because at the end of the day, it gets you a solid job, and you're gonna love it if you love interacting with individuals. So it's good to know, and good to spread that kind of information around, because right now, especially when people are isolated at home, and you really don't have these career talks going on. Like I remember in high school we used to have all these universities coming in and holding these talks, and I was just going to them. There was some sort of excitement, but now it's like, hey, you go online, you do a virtual tour. Hey, it's something, but it's not the same feeling. So
So I guess another question that I would like to ask is, so if you could say, potentially in a hypothetical scenario, sit in a time machine, go back in time, is there any way you would try to fast track your career so that you get where you are right now? Or would there be some tweaks that didn't seem like you wanted to make a lot of tweaks, so but like, yeah, you can elaborate on it if you like to do that.
So again, as I said, I would have liked for someone to tell me that nursing can be for everybody, and this is what it actually is. I just feel like universities don't do a very, very good job of explaining to students about, hey, this is honors of health studies or honors of bachelor's of science, or I'm not downplaying anybody in particular, like any program, because again, everybody does meet a goal at the end of the day, right? Just for someone who wants to go into a field of nursing, or just any field in particular, it's good to have an overall sort of outlook in that. And I didn't expose myself to that in that young age. So if I were to redo everything again, I would do my bachelor's in nursing right away, and then I would have been an NP by now, because it's been 9 years since I graduated, and nursing plus the nurse practitioner would have taken me 7 years. So, or like by now, I would have had the experience and everything to do that. But again, no regrets. I've learned a lot from both of my degrees, and I feel like I'm even at a more competitive position to kind of cater myself to employers now that I do have those 2 degrees.
Right.
So it's always a double-edged sword with going back in time.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. So I have a quick question, if that's okay. So I know that a few seconds ago you mentioned that you wish you had someone as a mentor to let you know that nursing is for everybody. So I'm just gonna, I guess, pinpoint to those 3 words. Nursing is for everybody. So when did you realize that like nursing is for everyone, in terms of like a guy or a female or a male can pursue to be an RN? Was it through meeting I guess your different professors in your nursing degree, or was it through your placements? Because I know you did mention that throughout your placements you knew that nursing was the right thing to do. But when did you realize that nursing was for everyone to pursue?
So when I say everyone, it's only specific to individuals who kind of who are open to everything. It's very everyone isn't like open. Everyone I meant like males and females both can do it. I think that's the point I wanted to get across.
Okay.
Everyone, again, it's a question mark, because everybody can't do it. No, because it does involve personal care and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So if some individuals are not prone, open to that, then it's not open for you. But that kind of clarity needs to happen in grade 12 or in grade 11, where students know, hey, this is what I'm getting into.
Yeah.
And these are the career opportunities. I can't get to from point A to point D right away, just like that. I do have to work towards it. Sometimes it does happen, because I've had a couple of my colleagues from my nursing degree who have done their mental health placements in their final placement, who have done public health placements in their last placements, and actually have ended in those roles, which are very rewarding careers. I wasn't able to achieve that in that sort of my last placement. It's again a very case by case analysis. But if you do want to end up very specifically in some sort of field in nursing, you need to work towards it. There's no quick sort of magic to happen. You just need to know your goal, and you need to actually work towards it, and then you will be successful.
That's great. So I guess from what you just ended off with, in terms of if a person really wants to pursue a career in RN, like they need to, I guess, have a map on where they want to go and what goals they want to form, right? So I guess my question to you now is, suppose like 5 or 10 years back, when you had no idea or no clue about nursing, right? But but down the line you kind of figured out, there's a career in nursing and you would like to pursue it. So my question to you is, now that you're an RN, what, I guess, if you were to go back in time 5 to 10 years ago, what extracurricular activities or I guess or any additional experiences would you have partaken in? Like, for example, if you were in high school or starting your undergrad in first or second year, would you have partaken in to gain those skills per se that will be helpful for you now as an RN?
That's a very interesting question. I would say that I actually did partake in a lot of those opportunities. Like I volunteered at a long-term care home. I volunteered at a hospital. I volunteered at like a tax clinic. I volunteered with like homeless populations. But I'm not, see, I did it for the reasons to go into med school. But if I had my mind open to nursing, I would have done that as well. So it's like, let's say you're interested about a certain field. I would recommend individuals to, let's say, seek opportunities in those volunteer positions, but it's really difficult because volunteer positions, you don't really get exposed to the actual nursing field. So that's a really interesting question. I would have to research myself. I'm pretty sure there's definitely opportunities available to learn, but it's difficult because, again, I don't think they would allow a high school student to do that, like to get into the actual room, because, again, privacy, confidentiality, and so on and so forth. So I'm not sure how to answer that question exactly.
I guess the only way a high school student or even like a first or second year student can get exposure to actual experience in nursing or shadowing on nurses probably through co-op placements, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the only way. I don't think there is, well, not to my knowledge. Maybe you can correct me. I don't think there's a program or I don't know, like or maybe like a drop-in program that you can interview a nurse or sorry, I should say interview, but to shadow a nurse in terms of what they do on a day-to-day basis. Like I don't think there's a program like that. Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. All right.
But again, just to hear that'd be a good sort of starting point, though.
Yeah. That's.
Yeah. I was going through the list of questions that we had, and I just realized one thing that might be good to ask is about the skills. So skills as in, like, there could be different levels of skills categories, like professional skills, interpersonal skills, and you've clearly articulated that interpersonal skills is one of your strengths. I mean, that's why you want to, I guess, interact with people, or you like interacting with people. So I guess in your past 20 months of experience in this current role, what are the skills that you think you're able to like leverage that helps you stand out a little differently compared to other people, other folks working in the same area? So what's unique to you?
Right. I think my way of conversing with individuals actually did start from like I would say high school, because I was participating in such a wide variety of activities then that I was exposed to, conversing with principals, teachers, other students from other schools, organizing events, just getting that exposure of being an extrovert. And I think that kind of paid off in my, again, my long university career, and then finally into my career. Because again, if you're going for call placements, you're interviewing, you're getting those interpersonal skills of how to communicate with individuals in front of you, and how to basically, I would say, sell yourself, because not even selling yourself, it's more so like, hey, this is me, and this is what I bring to the table. Just that kind of techniques, learning those techniques, and just being yourself at the same time helps you down the line, I would say.
So if you can talk to people, if you can deal with people,
I hope that.
I mean, that's that points to
exactly.
Yeah, I think also since you're, I guess, talking about skills, so I worked with nurses personally, and I feel like they have very strong detail-oriented skills in terms of not only taking care of the patient, but being aware of, I guess, the entire profile of why the patient's in the hospital, for example, right? So I think if you have like very strong detail-oriented skills and also I guess you can talk more about this based on your research experiences. I think nurses have very strong analytical skills as well, because they have to investigate a lot of issues, right, that's going on with the patient, because I don't know, I guess based on my experiences, nothing is constant, right? Like things could change within a minute or within a second. So by that, I guess you have developed those analytical skills or detail-oriented skills from, I guess, your research experiences as well, which I think a nurse should have. So if you can expand more on that, that would be great.
Yeah, of course, definitely. Again, like nitpicking specific details out of a journal article, might seem like, hey, this is tedious, but at the end of the day, if you convert that into a nursing skill, where you actually have to deal with 15 different things at one single time, that does help with, again, prioritizing your tasks. And since I was part of this team called Nursing Resource Team, I was assigned to different floors each shift I went to the hospital. So like I have to call in the morning at 6 o'clock, hey, where am I going? And they tell me this unit. So even if it was a brand new unit, I'd have to kind of get there and adjust myself accordingly and mold myself to the unit so I can, again, perform every skill possible. Dealing with family members, dealing with actual patients, going to rounds with doctors, dealing with physios, OTs, the manager, if there's like some sort of managerial issue with, and safe, and even helping your colleagues out. So you got to do all this at once. So being a multitasker in high school would be a really good skill to have. It's hard to develop that multitasking skill, I would say. But again, as I told you, I was part of student council, this and that. And then I was also studying to basically have good grades to kind of go into a good program at university. So I think all that combination starts from a young age, that would make sure that would ensure that you're successful later down the line.
That's great. Yeah, thank you so much for expanding on that. The other question I had was in terms of, I guess people who are very young, in terms of maybe they're in high school and they're in their first or second year of undergrad and they're not sure what they want to go into, but they know about nursing. They have nursing at the back of their mind. I guess my question to you is, what resources would you suggest them to look at to see if nursing is the right path for them?
I think the best resource you can have is like a live person, to be honest. A live person as in like, many people out of, let's say, 100 kids in your grade, let's say grade 12 going into schools, probably, a couple of them are going to go into nursing. So it's good to always communicate, and because there's also career talks in university too, right? There's like professionals who come over. There's like so if the person's interested, you actually have to seek out what you really want to do, right? And make sure that you're getting to those resources as a student. Talking to friends, LinkedIn is a great way to kind of interact with people. I remember when I was a brand new nurse, I did community nursing, and I really didn't know what I was getting into at the time. So I communicated with a couple of individuals from LinkedIn, and they gave me the reviews of how they what they do right now and what their purpose is in the community. Final sort of experience with LinkedIn, but I think now LinkedIn is also for students seeking opportunities who can still what do you call it? What's that term? When you interact professionally, like mingle, I guess. But
yeah,
there's a professional term for that I would recommend. So again, LinkedIn is a great way to kind of talk to people and get to know what they do.
That's great. And did you have any other questions?
No, that's it. I think it was great, and there was a lot of great answers that we got from Ripudaman, and good questions asked by me really as well. So I think I'm pretty satisfied with this conversation. Unless there's anything else, Ripudaman, if you would like to add, or whatever either of you would like to add.
I'm pretty good. I hope.
So thank you so much, Ripudaman, for having this 1 hour meeting with us and talking more about your career journey as an RN. So